Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a trip over 1 billion kilometers from Earth to tell the incredible story of Huygens, a small probe that pulled off the most distant and maybe the most daring landing in all of human history.
For centuries, Saturn's biggest moon, Titan, was just a complete mystery. A fuzzy orange dot in our telescopes, wrapped in this thick, soupy haze that hid everything. It left us all wondering, what could possibly be down there? What does it really look like on a world where it rains methane?
Well, to find out, we sent a robotic explorer on one heck of a journey. This is the story of that explorer, the Huygens Probe, and its wild 7-year quest to survive a fiery plunge and touch down on a totally alien world.
Okay, so let's start with the big question. Out of all the moons, all the planets, all the places in our solar system, why Titan? What made it such an irresistible target for this incredibly ambitious mission?
Well, the reason was just too good to pass up. Scientists saw Titan as a kind of frozen, primordial Earth, like a laboratory held in a deep freeze for billions of years. It's got a thick nitrogen atmosphere, a lot like ours. It's got weather, clouds, and rain. But here's the kicker. On Titan, it rains liquid methane. And this whole environment is just swimming in complex organic chemicals, the actual building blocks of life. It was a chance to see a world that might hold the secret to how life gets started.
But actually getting there, that was a monumental challenge. It was a journey that took 7 long years. And, as we're about to see, it almost ended in total disaster before the real show even began.
As you can see from this timeline, the Huygens probe basically hitched a ride on its much bigger mothership, the Cassini orbiter. They launched way back in huygens and spent years using the gravity of Venus, Earth, and then Jupiter to slingshot themselves across the solar system. And for that whole time, for 6.7 years, Huygens was completely asleep, just a silent passenger waiting for its one-shot at glory.
But way out in deep space, long after launch, a couple of really persistent engineers found a critical design flaw. And I mean critical. It was a flaw that could have made the entire mission worthless, losing every single bit of data the probe was sent to collect.
The problem was something we all know, called the Doppler shift, right? It's like when an ambulance goes by. The siren sounds higher as it comes towards you and lower as it goes away. Well, the same thing happens with radio waves. As Huygens was speeding down to Titan, the frequency of its signal was going to change. And it turned out the radio receiver on Cassini was never designed to handle that shift. It just wouldn't be able to understand the data.
Now this is where it gets really cool. On the left, that was the original plan. Total mission failure. All that data lost forever. They couldn't just reprogram the hardware from 1 billion kilometers away. So what did they do? The engineers came up with this brilliant solution. They changed Cassini's entire flight path. They had the orbiter fly a different orbit so that Huygens' signal would travel sideways or perpendicular to its motion. That simple change in geometry pretty much canceled out the Doppler shift. It was an absolutely genius fix that saved the entire mission.
So with that near disaster avoided, our little robotic hero finally said goodbye to its mothership. It coasted for 22 days toward its final test, a fiery, high-speed plunge right through Titan's thick orange atmosphere.
After surviving the insane heat of entry, the probe floated down under its parachute into a world that was just unimaginably cold. The temperature at the landing site was minus 179 degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, that's way colder than the coldest winter day ever recorded in Antarctica.
So after this 2.5-hour descent, what happens? The landing itself was, well, surprisingly gentle. It hit the ground at about the speed of a ball you drop from your waist. It squished into the surface about 12 centimeters deep, then it kind of bounced and skidded about 30 centimeters and wobbled back and forth 5 times before finally settling down. A tiny puff of dust, probably organic stuff, got kicked up and just hung in the air for a few seconds.
So what did it actually land on? Well, the descriptions from the scientists were just fantastic. My favorite? One of them compared it to crème brûlée, a hard, thin crust on top with a sticky, sort of mud-like goop underneath. Later analysis showed it was probably more like a sand made of tiny ice grains. This was it, our first physical touch of a world in the outer solar system.
For the next 90 minutes, before its batteries died for good in that extreme cold, Huygens sent back a stream of priceless data and pictures. It was painting humanity's very first portrait of this bizarre frozen landscape.
The light there was incredibly dim. Think about 1,000 times dimmer than a bright sunny day here on Earth. It was pretty much like late twilight, just after the sun has set. The sky was a deep orange, and the sun was just a small bright spot,
with most of its light getting scattered by that thick, planet-wide haze.
And what Huygens saw from the ground was just astonishing. The pictures showed this flat plain, and it was littered with what looked like pebbles, but they weren't rocks. Nope, they were chunks of water ice frozen as hard as granite. And a lot of them were rounded, which is a huge clue. It means they've been tumbled around and worn down by flowing liquid. The instruments also sensed the ground was damp. The conclusion was undeniable. Huygens had landed in a dry riverbed. It was the first solid proof that liquid methane, had carved up the surface of this alien moon.
The mission on the surface was over just 90 minutes after it began. The batteries were spent. But the story? Oh, it was far from over, because the data Huygens sent back left us all with the brand new, tantalizing puzzle.
And this image here hints at the biggest mystery Huygens left for us. During its descent, the probe detected a very faint, extremely low-frequency radio signal, a signal that could point to something absolutely incredible hidden deep beneath Titan's icy crust.
The signal looked a lot like something called a Schumann resonance. You can think of it like a planetary heartbeat. Basically, it's a set of electromagnetic waves that get trapped and bounce back and forth between two conductive layers. Here on Earth, that happens between the ground and our ionosphere. On Titan, scientists think it could be happening between its ionosphere and a huge, salty, liquid water ocean buried deep underground, a hidden ocean.
Now, to be fair, this is still being debated. The signal could have just been caused by vibrations on the probe itself, but the mere possibility of a subsurface ocean, a key ingredient for life as we know it, has completely fired up the scientific community and directly inspired the next chapter in exploring Titan.
And that legacy is now taking shape as an amazing new mission called Dragonfly. And get this, unlike Huygens, which just sat in one spot, Dragonfly is a nuclear-powered quadcopter. It's literally a drone that's designed to fly from place to place across Titan, sampling different areas and following up on all the incredible clues Huygens gave us.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. Huygens was the scout. It was the pioneer that peeled back the haze and gave us a quick 90-minute peek at a world we'd only dreamed of. It answered so many questions, but it left us with even bigger, more profound ones. And now we're getting ready to send a drone to fly right through that world's front door. You just have to wonder, what secrets is it going to find?